The assignment to war was over. The skies were quiet. But peace didn't feel like peace to many Dot after the long conflict between Earth and the Zalari Union. Both sides wanted to avoid future violence. The solution? A strange cultural exchange. Program. Every adult human citizen would receive a comfort alien, a member of the Zalari species, trained to offer emotional support, companionship, and in some cases, physical comfort. Tom wasn't sure how to feel about it. He lived alone, in a small apartment on the east edge of New Geneva, working night shifts as a maintenance technician. His building was old, his meals were simple, and he didn't like change. But now, standing at his door, a tall alien girl with silver blue skin and glowing green eyes looked at him calmly. "I am Lyra," she said, her voice steady. "Assigned to you by the Unity program." Tom nodded awkwardly and stepped aside. "You can come in." Lyra walked inside, but she didn't bow like some of the others he had seen on the news feeds. She didn't offer tea or ask how he felt. She looked around the room, crossed her arms, and sat in the chair by the wall without saying anything more. Tom scratched the back of his neck. Would you like something to drink?" "No, thank you." He blinked. "Okay, just let me know if you need anything." "I will." They sat in silence. Tom turned on the news, but neither of them paid attention. The room felt colder than before. Not because of Lyra's appearance. Alari were known for their grace and elegance, but because she wasn't acting like the others. He had seen clips online other humans hugging their comfort aliens, laughing, being served meals or more. Intimate things. But Lyra just sat there, eyes scanning the walls, saying nothing. That night, Tom made 2 plates of food, one for himself, one for her. He left hers on the table. She didn't touch it. "Don't like it?" he asked gently. "I'm not here to eat your food." "Then why are you here?" She looked up at him, her eyes serious. "Because the program demanded it. But I follow my own rules. I am not here to undress, serve, or entertain you." Tom's face turned red. "I wasn't going to ask that." She nodded slowly, then looked away. He sighed and sat down across from her. "You don't want to be here, do you?" She didn't answer. But she didn't leave either. The next day, Tom walked through the hallway of his building and heard laughter from the neighbors. One man bragged that his alien girl sang to him in 4 languages. Another winked and said he never needed to sleep. Alone again. When Tom didn't join in, they teased him. "Your alien broken or just cold?" One man chuckled. Tom forced a smile and walked away. Back home, Lyra sat in the same chair. She hadn't touched her assigned bed. She hadn't asked for anything. She didn't complain. But her silence was loud. Tom sat near her and tried to start a conversation. "You don't have to do anything you don't want to. I don't expect anything from you." She looked at him with a soft but guarded expression. "Most humans say that. Few mean it. I mean it." They stared at each other for a moment. Then, for the first time, she nodded, not in obedience, but in recognition. That night, Tom turned off the lights early. Lyra remained in the chair, her arms crossed, her eyes watching the stars through the window. She didn't ask for warmth, didn't beg for comfort. She just stayed still, strong and distant. Tom lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. He didn't know why it bothered him so much. Maybe it was because everyone else had a smiling face by their side. Maybe it was because his comfort alien seemed more like a prisoner than a guest. But deep down, a thought stirred in him. Maybe she's not here to make me comfortable. Maybe she's here to teach me something else. Asterisk the alien with boundaries. The following morning, Tom woke up to the sound of soft footsteps. He peeked into the living room. Lyra was standing near the window, watching the sky. The early light of dawn made her silver-blue skin glow faintly. She didn't turn to look at him. "Did you sleep at all?" Tom asked, rubbing his eyes. "I don't need much rest," she replied. He wanted to say something more, maybe ask about her world or her life before the program. But the air between them was still stiff, like a thread stretched too tight. Instead, Tom walked to the kitchen and made coffee. Out of habit, he poured a second cup and placed it on the table near her. She glanced at the cup, then at him. "I won't drink it just because you expect me to." "I don't," Tom replied, sitting down. "It's just there, if you want." Lyra studied him for a few seconds, then, to his surprise, picked up the cup and took a small sip. Her face remained unreadable. "You're not like the others," she finally said. Tom raised an eyebrow. "The other humans?" She nodded. "Most try to be kind at first, but they always expect something. A smile, a touch, obedience." Tom sighed. "Is that what the program trained you for?" "They tried," she said simply. "I didn't follow their script." Tom leaned forward, curious. "Then why join it at all?" Lyra looked back at the sky. "Because I wanted to see for myself. To understand what kind of species humans really are. Not from government reports or filtered news, but from real interaction." Tom hesitated. "And what do you think so far?" "I think." She paused. "Most humans don't know how to treat something that doesn't submit." He flinched at that. She wasn't angry or emotional, just honest. Calm. Too calm, maybe. Later that day, Tom went out for groceries. As he passed his neighbor's door, he overheard more laughter. "She dances every night? You're still acting like a statue?" Tom didn't answer. He felt something strange bubbling in his chest. Embarrassment, yes, but also defense. Back at home, he found Lyra sitting at the table, reading from his datapad. "You can read English?" he asked. "I studied before arriving." "I also know your history," she said. "It's violent." Tom chuckled darkly. "Yeah, we've had some bad chapters." She looked at him with quiet intensity. "But also some hopeful ones." That evening, Tom cooked again. This time, she sat at the table while he ate. She didn't touch the food, but she stayed. And when Tom spilled sauce on his shirt and swore softly, she raised one eyebrow and handed him a napkin without saying a word. It was nothing, but it felt like something. As days passed, Lyra didn't change much, but Tom did. He stopped expecting anything. Instead, he just existed with her. One day, while repairing a faulty circuit at work, he made a mistake, one that could have caused a fire if not caught. At home, he mentioned it casually while talking to himself. Lyra, seated nearby, said, "You misread the voltage chart. That panel uses dual-phase wiring." Tom froze. "How do you know that?" "I've studied basic human engineering. It was part of the program. I wanted to be more than decoration. You saved me from a major mess. I didn't do it for you. I did it for accuracy." But Tom saw the tiniest flicker of pride in her eyes. That night, they sat by the window. The stars were out, quiet and steady. "Do you miss your home?" Tom asked. Lyra nodded slowly. "Yes, but I came here by choice. I knew I wouldn't be treated as equal. I still chose this path." He looked at her. "Why?" "Because someone has to show humans that we are not toys. Not pets. Not comfort objects. We are thinking, living beings." Tom nodded. "I see that now." She turned her head slightly. "Do you?" He didn't answer with words. He just stood, picked up her untouched plate, and washed it gently like he would for a friend. Lyra watched him in silence. She didn't smile. But for the first time, she uncrossed her arms. Breaking the pattern. 2 weeks had passed since Lyra entered Tom's life. He no longer saw her as just a comfort alien. She was more like a mirror reflecting things in himself he hadn't looked at before. Things like expectations, quiet prejudice, unspoken assumptions. He also noticed how others looked at her at them. In the apartment block, people whispered behind closed doors. Some laughed. Others watched with confused glances, wondering why Tom's assigned alien didn't wear the soft robes or follow him around like the others. One evening, as Tom walked down the hallway with Lyra beside him, a neighbor smirked and said loudly, "Still no progress? I've got a manual if you need tips." Tom stopped walking. Lyra paused too, calm and quiet. Tom turned slowly to the man and said, "She's not here for your entertainment." "Or mine." The hallway went silent. The man blinked, shrugged, and went inside his unit. But Lyra looked at Tom not with surprise, but with a different kind of gaze. One that lingered. Later, in the apartment, Tom sat at the table while Lyra stood by the window again. "You didn't have to defend me," she said. "I wasn't defending you," he replied. "I was defending what's right." She turned. "And what do you think is right, Tom?" Tom sighed, rubbing his forehead. "I don't know anymore. At first, I thought this whole program was strange. Then I thought it was broken. Now I just think maybe it's wrong entirely." Lyra sat down across from him. "It was always wrong. You're just seeing it now." Tom looked at her. "You said you wanted to understand humans. What have you learned so far?" She tilted her head slightly. "That you can be kind, but also blind. That you value freedom, yet expect control. And that some of you are worth knowing." Her last words were soft, but they warmed something inside him. One night, a small emergency hit the apartment complex. A gas leak alarm triggered, and a few pipes burst in the basement. The building's engineer was out sick, and chaos followed. Tom ran downstairs with a toolkit. Without asking, Lyra followed. "Stay back," he warned. "The fumes. I've studied your safety protocols," she interrupted. "I'll manage." As steam hissed and lights flickered, Lyra helped hold a pipe steady while Tom sealed a valve. Her movements were quick, precise, professional. Not a trace of fear in her eyes. When it was over, Tom collapsed against the wall, breathing hard. Lyra stood beside him, hair damp from the mist, her arms streaked with soot. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded. "You? I am now." They shared a long look, the kind that needed no words. The next morning, Tom received a message from the Unity Program Center. Subject, routine review. Alien companion behavior note. Citizen Tom Reeve, your assigned Zelari partner Lyra has shown non-compliant behavioral patterns. A scheduled inspection will occur within 48 hours. Prepare her for reassignment if needed. Tom's hands trembled. He showed the message to Lyra. "That evening, they're going to try to take you away," he said. Lyra folded the paper calmly and placed it on the table. "They've done it before to others. Some aliens disappear. Others get reassigned until they break. You're not a piece of furniture," Tom muttered. "You're not even assigned anymore. Not to me." She tilted her head. "Then what am I?" Tom took a deep breath. "You're my partner. You're my friend." Her lips parted slightly. "You know what this means?" "I do." He stepped forward and stood beside her. "They'll have to go through me." That night, Lyra didn't sit by the window. She sat beside Tom on the couch. Not too close. Just enough. Neither spoke much. But when Tom fell asleep mid-sentence, Lyra quietly reached out and covered him with the blanket. She didn't smile. But she didn't cross her arms, either. Asterisk connection, beyond expectation. The inspection day arrived. Quietly, but the tension in the apartment was sharp. Tom cleaned the living room more than usual, though he knew it wouldn't matter. Lyra didn't change anything about herself. She still wore her plain tunic, still carried that calm, controlled posture, and still refused to play the role the program wanted her to. When the knock came, Tom answered the door. Two officials stood. There one human, one Zilari. The human man wore a neat black suit and carried a tablet. He gave a polite smile, but his eyes didn't match it. "Citizen Tom Reeve, we're here for your compliance review." The Zilari woman beside him looked colder. She gave Lyra a single glance and said nothing. Tom stepped aside to let them in. Lyra stood silently near the table, hands folded in front of her. "We'll begin with a few questions," the man said. "Has your companion been cooperative with her duties?" Tom crossed his arms. "Define duties." The man's smile faded. "Emotional support, obedience to requests, physical and psychological bonding." Lyra spoke before Tom could. "I did not join this program to be touched like an object. I agreed to live with a human to observe, not to be owned." The Zilari inspector's expression twitched. "Your tone is unwise, Lyra. You know the consequences." Tom stepped forward. "She hasn't broken any laws. She's lived here peacefully. She's helped me with my work, saved my building from a gas leak, and more than anything, she's acted with more dignity than most people I know." The human inspector tapped his screen. "Non-compliant behavior still warrants review. If she continues refusing her role, she'll be reassigned, possibly reconditioned." "No," Tom said, voice firm. "She stays. She's not my tool. She's my guest." Lyra glanced at him, and for the first time, something softened in her face. A breath of relief. A silent thanks. The officials left with warnings and a written report, but they didn't remove Lyra. Not yet. That evening, Lyra and Tom sat quietly. No lights, just the blue glow of the stars outside. "I've seen humans grow angry," Lyra said, "but not many fight for something that doesn't belong." "To them, you're not a thing," Tom replied, "and you don't belong to anyone." She turned toward him. "Why did you speak for me?" He hesitated. "Because I respect you." Lyra stared at him, studying his face like she was searching for cracks. Then she spoke, slowly. "Back on my world, we were told humans were selfish. Loud, hungry, but they never said anything about kindness." Tom chuckled gently. "We can be all those things, sometimes in the same day." She gave a small nod, and then for the first time, she reached out and touched his hand, not for comfort, not for duty, but as a gesture of her own choice. Her fingers were cool and her grip light, but it wasn't the touch that mattered. It was what it meant. Over the next few days, something changed between them. They didn't talk more than usual, but their silences grew warmer. Lyra began sitting beside Tom on the couch when he watched old sci-fi movies. She didn't laugh or react, but she stayed, her presence steady. She no longer stood while eating. She sat, slowly with care. One day, Tom came home from work, tired and covered in grease. The lights were dim. Lyra had repaired the broken heater and left a mug of hot tea waiting on the table. He looked at her. "Why?" She didn't answer. She didn't have to. That night, she told him something personal. "When I was chosen for this program, my sisters called me a traitor. They said I was throwing away my pride to live among apes." "And what do you think now?" Tom asked. She looked into his eyes. "I think I met one human who proved them wrong." Outside their apartment, the world continued its pattern. People talked, laughed, and treated their assigned aliens however they liked. But inside this small space, something rare was growing, not romance, not duty, respect. And that, Tom believed, was more powerful than anything the program had ever designed. Asterisk trouble with the system 3 days after the inspection. Another message arrived, this one more urgent, more direct. "Notice, removal order issued. Your assigned Zilari, Lyra, has been flagged for transfer due to refusal of duty. Prepare for collection within 72 hours. Tom stared at the screen, his jaw tight. He didn't tell Lyra right away. She was in the corner, quietly building a small model ship out of scrap parts, something she had started doing in her free time. Her fingers were careful, her expression calm, but her calmness made his anger worse. That night, Tom called someone he hadn't spoken to in a long time, his sister, Nora. She worked in civil defense and had contacts in the Interspecies Commission. Told her everything. About the inspection, about the warnings, and about Lyra. Nora didn't interrupt. When he finished, there was silence. Then she said, "You're the first person I've talked to who treats one of them like an equal. Most just see them as expensive furniture. I can't let them take her. I'll make some calls," Nora promised. "But be ready. You might have to go public." When Tom told Lyra about the removal notice, she didn't show fear. She didn't even frown. She simply said, "So, they've decided." "You're not leaving," Tom said firmly. "You may not have a choice." "I don't care. I'll fight it." She looked at him, her voice soft. "Even if it makes you a target?" He nodded. Something shifted in her posture then. Not pride, not relief. Something more vulnerable. "They will try to silence you," she warned. "Or shame you. They will say you've become ... attached." "I have," Tom admitted, "but not in the way they think." The next morning, a government journalist arrived sent by Nora's contact. Tom agreed to do the interview. They sat in his small kitchen. The journalist, a young man with sharp eyes, placed a recorder on the table. "Can you describe your experience with the Unity program?" he asked. Tom hesitated. Then he told the truth. It was meant to heal people. But instead, it turned intelligent beings into comfort tools. "I didn't expect that at first. I thought it was normal. But then I met Lyra, and she showed me that dignity doesn't need permission." Lyra remained off camera, standing by the window like always. She didn't follow the script. And that made her more human than most humans I know. The journalist blinked. "You don't see her as property?" "She's not," Tom replied. "She's free, she's smart, and she chooses to stay with me. That's what matters." That night, the interview went viral. A headline appeared on the WorldNet. "Citizen rejects comfort alien system, calls for equal rights for Zalari participants." Messages flooded in, some angry, some supportive. Others confused. Tom expected the worst. But what he didn't expect was what happened next. The following day, a crowd gathered outside the Unity Program Center. Signs were held up. "They are not toys. Choice is sacred. End the program now." Some humans brought their assigned aliens, many of whom stood silently, watching, unsure. And in Tom's building, something else changed. The neighbor, who once joked about Lyra, knocked on his door. When Tom opened it, the man looked down awkwardly. "I watched your interview," he said. "I didn't think about it that way before." Tom didn't reply. The man gave a small nod and left. Lyra watched the whole thing. Later, she spoke. "You made them see me." "No," Tom replied. "You made me see you. I just shared what I learned." On the 72nd hour, no one came to take Lyra. Instead, another message arrived. "Removal order canceled pending program review and reforms." Tom smiled. "Looks like they're afraid of the truth." Lyra didn't smile, but her eyes glimmered. "You used your voice. That's rare." Tom looked at her. "So, what do you want to do now?" She paused. "Stay," she said. "But only if it's still my choice." Tom nodded. "It always was." The turning point. The world didn't change overnight, but something had begun. The Unity program paused new assignments. Several news channels picked up Tom and Lyra's story. Social feeds filled with debates. some defending the old system, others demanding a complete shutdown. Tom received requests for interviews, podcasts, and even a documentary series. He declined most of them. He wasn't looking for fame. He only wanted the program to stop treating sentient beings like accessories. One day, a woman from the Interstellar Ethics Board arrived at their door. Her name was Mari. She wore a gray suit and had tired eyes. "I've been assigned to observe," she explained. "We're reviewing how the comfort program may have violated boundaries." Lyra stood tall beside Tom as he welcomed Mari inside. Mari asked many questions about daily life, Lyra's autonomy, the pressure she felt to obey. At one point, Mari turned to Lyra. "Do you regret joining the exchange?" Lyra paused. "No, because it brought me here, to someone who listened." Mari looked down. "Not many stories end like yours." Lyra replied gently, "That's because most aren't allowed to begin." After Mari left, Tom and Lara sat together at the kitchen table. A silence hung between them, not cold, but thoughtful. "You think this will matter?" Tom asked. Lyra nodded slowly. "It already does." She leaned forward. "When I first came here, I thought I would leave broken. But now, I've been treated with more honesty in this small apartment than I ever saw in grand halls." Tom smiled. "All it took was ignoring the manual." She raised one brow. "You ignored more than that." The next shift came from the Zelari side. An underground movement called Free Will Union published a message. "Zelari comfort workers are not representatives of our people. We demand the right to choose our role and to walk away if that role is slavery wrapped in silk." It shocked the galaxy. The Zelari Council responded with silence at first. Then, quietly, they began releasing reassigned comfort aliens back to their homeworlds. Those who still had the will to go. Others stayed. Some, like Lyra, stayed not because they were assigned, but because they found something real. Weeks passed. Tom and Lyra developed a quiet routine. They worked on small repairs together, sometimes helped neighbors with machines or tech. She enjoyed working with wires and circuits. She said it reminded her of navigating a starship's language. One evening, Tom sat beside her as she adjusted a handheld drone. "You ever think about leaving?" he asked. She didn't look up. "Leaving? You? Leaving Earth?" She stopped. "I thought about it, especially during the first week. But now, Earth feels strange, yet honest, raw, like your people haven't finished writing who you are." Tom chuckled. "That's generous." She glanced at him. "It's truth, and I want to stay. Not to serve, not to comfort, but to build something that hasn't been written yet." Tom nodded. And for the first time, he reached out to her. Not for comfort, not out of need, but to offer a hand equal to equal. Lyra looked at it for a moment, then took it, firm and sure. The ethics board's final report came in days later. The Unity program is terminated. All remaining alien participants are no longer bound to assignment. They may choose freely. Tom read the message aloud. Lyra didn't react at first. Then she said softly, "Do you still want me here?" Tom met her gaze. "Only if you want to stay." She stood and walked to the window where she had stood on her first day. Then she looked back. "I choose to stay. But from now on, I want a desk of my own," she said, teasing slightly. Tom grinned. "Deal." Outside, the stars shimmered in the night sky. Inside, a new kind of bond had formed, one not made of orders or duty, but of trust. It had started with silence and grown into something louder than any system could control. A new way. 4 months passed. The Unity program was now history, a controversial one, studied in ethics classrooms and political debates. Some called it a failure. Others called it a warning. But to Tom and Lyra, it was just the beginning of something better. With no assignment binding her, Lyra had made her own decision. She stayed on Earth, not because of law or duty, but because of her own will. She and Tom had turned the spare room into a workshop. They worked on repair drones, fusion tools, and old Earth tech. Tom taught her about human design. She taught him Zelari logic patterns and energy stabilizers. Together, they built more than machines. They built understanding. One morning, a small group from the new Human Zelari Partnership Alliance visited their apartment. Tom didn't expect much. But when they explained what they were planning, he was stunned. "We want to launch a new project," said the representative, a kind woman named Ayla. "Voluntary partnerships, equal roles, shared work, true learning between our species. Not comfort assignments, real collaboration." "And you want us to be part of it?" Tom asked. "We want you two to lead it. You've shown what it means to build respect instead of control." Lyra listened in silence. Then she asked, "Will these partnerships allow us to walk away?" "Any time," Ayla promised. "No contracts, just trust." Lyra looked at Tom, then back at Ayla. "Then we'll help." A few weeks later, Tom and Lyra were assigned to a joint science vessel called the Horizon Step. It was designed to explore fringe systems where humans and Zelari had once clashed. Now places of new hope. The crew was diverse. Zelari, humans, even a few from other allied species. No roles were assigned by species or gender. No one wore the label Comfort Alien. Instead, everyone wore the same uniform adapted for biology, but equal in color and badge. Tom worked in engineering. Lyra became one of the ship's lead data analysts. In her quiet way, she made the system smarter than it had ever been. One evening, during a slow drift through an uncharted nebula, Tom and Lyra stood together in the observation deck. The stars shimmered through the glass, no longer distant or divided. Tom broke the silence. "You remember what you told me the first day? That you had your own rules?" Lyra gave a soft smile. "I still do." "Still refusing to undress for comfort?" He teased gently. She gave him a long look, amused but dry. "Always." They both laughed. Then she added, "But now, I've learned something new." "What's that?" "That sometimes the best comfort is being seen, truly seen, and never asked to be anything less." Tom nodded. "And giving someone space to be more than what they were told to be." They stood in silence again, but it was a good silence, one built over time, over TRILS, over the shared decision to do something no system had expected. To choose each other, not as assigned roles, but as equals. And far beyond Earth, across a galaxy once filled with distrust, a quiet message spread, one whispered between humans and aliens alike. Respect builds stronger bonds than obedience ever will. And at the heart of that new truth stood a quiet human and the alien who had once refused to obey, but never refused to be free.